What if I told you? There was a time when a human being was placed inside a cage, not as punishment, not as part of a cruel joke, but as an attraction in a zoo, alongside animals. A man, whose laughter once echoed through the forests of Central Africa, was dragged into a world where his dignity was stripped, his identity erased, and his very existence reduced to nothing more than a spectacle. This is not a horror story. It's not a twisted movie plot. It happened in America, and the man's name was Ota Benga, alias MBA Ota Benga. Before you judge the past too quickly, listen closely, because this story will change the way you think about history, humanity, and the price of ignorance. Ota Benga was born in the late 1800s among the Mbuti people of the Congo, a community of forest dwellers known for their small stature and unmatched ability to thrive in the heart of nature. To his people, Ota was not a pygmy, as the world would later call him. He was a son, a hunter, a friend, and a human being full of life. His teeth were sharpened to fine points, a cultural practice that to his tribe meant beauty and strength. The Congo was his home, lush, green, alive. But beneath the trees, the shadows of colonialism were spreading like a plague. At the time, King Leopold II of Belgium ruled the Congo, not as a nation, but as his personal property. Under the guise of civilization and progress, his agents unleashed a reign of terror to extract rubber and ivory. Villages were burned, men were enslaved, women and children mutilated for failing to meet quotas. The forests that once echoed with laughter now screamed with suffering. It was in this chaos that Ota Benga's world collapsed. His wife and children were killed during a raid. He had only escaped being part of the casualties because he was out hunting during the time of the raid. He was later captured by African slave traders, sold like an object in the human market. But just when you think he had suffered enough, his tragedy was only beginning. After his capture, Samuel Phillips Werner, an American missionary turned explorer with a strange mission, in 1904 was hired to bring a group of Africans to the St. Louis World's Fair, an event that promised to showcase the greatness of Western civilization. Werner claimed he wanted to educate Americans about Africa. In reality, it was a human exhibit, a show, and Ota Benga, broken and alone, was perfect for the role. Werner purchased Ota's freedom, but not to give him a new life. Instead, Ota became part of an anthropological display, a living proof of primitive man for curious crowds. In St. Louis, Ota stood under the blazing sun wearing nothing but a loincloth surrounded by cages and mock villages. Beside him were other Africans, all forced to act out scenes of savage life for thousands of gawking visitors. People stared, they laughed, they pointed. Some even prodded him like an animal. Newspapers described him not as a man, but as an oddity, a specimen. Imagine being ripped from your home, stripped of your name, your dignity turned into a living museum piece. That was Ota's reality, but the worst was yet to come. 2 years later, Ota Benga ended up in New York City. Werner, running out of money, placed him in the care of the Bronx Zoo. And what did they do? They put him in the monkey house. Yes, a human being locked in a cage next to chimpanzees and an orangutan named Dohong. The sign read, "The African Pygmy, age 23, height 4 feet 11 inches, weight 103 pounds. Visitors swarmed. They laughed. They shouted. Some even threw peanuts. Newspapers cheered, "The missing link found." What kind of world cages a man and calls it science? Eventually, African-American ministers protested. They demanded Ota's release. The zoo defended itself, calling it an educational exhibit. But under pressure, Ota was finally removed from the cage. Freedom? Number, it was too late. His spirit was broken. He was sent to an orphanage in Virginia. People tried to teach him English, Christianity, civilization. But how do you rebuild a man who has been stripped of everything? Ota Benga tried to adapt. He worked in a tobacco factory. He wore Western clothes. But inside, he was still that boy of the forest longing for home, for the laughter of his people, for the trees of the Congo. In 1916, at the age of 32, Ota Benga borrowed a gun. He walked to a shed, loaded the bullets, and ended his life with a single shot to the heart. The newspapers that once mocked him wrote a few lines about his death. Then, silence. But history remembers, and so do we. Ota Benga's story is more than a tragedy, it's a mirror, a reflection of what happens when curiosity becomes cruelty, when science forgets humanity, when power blinds us to the dignity of life. He was not a specimen, he was a man. And now, I want to hear from you. What does Ota Benga's story teach us about humanity and about the world we live in today? Let me know in the comments. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, subscribe. Because history is not just about kings and empires, it's about people. People like Ota Benga, whose voices were silenced, but not forgotten.